Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Faizan SoftwareWala, and today we are honored to welcome Robert Thorn, an accomplished educator, a school principal, leadership coach, and the founder of organizations dedicated to developing lifelong learners and improving young people. With decades of experience in education, leadership, development, public speaking, and coaching, Robert has devoted his career to helping students, teachers, and future leaders unlock their full potential. Robert, it's a true pleasure to have you with us today. Welcome to the show. First of all, could you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Okay, sure. My name is Robert Thorn. I'm currently a principal in a British school in the Middle East. And before that, I started off my career in my 20s when I wanted to escape from Britain. So I'm British, and my mother's Scottish, my father's English. And I wanted desperately to escape. I'd been to Canada and back. My parents emigrated to Canada and back before I was 10 years old, twice. And we'd moved and moved and moved, and we'd always gone on holidays. And so I was really interested to see the rest of the world. And so to do that, I became a teacher. And because I did science at university, I became a science teacher. And so I suddenly entered the world of international schools, but also schools like English speaking schools in different countries. So sometimes a country will open a school for people who want to study in English. So I have been in, I think, 7 different education systems and many more different countries. So there we are.
Okay, that's really too great, inspiring introduction. I really like. So, what inspired you to dedicate your life to education?
Right. Well, I didn't really want to be a teacher to start with. I wanted to earn money being a teacher. I wanted to be a writer, a famous story writer, a novelist, and I wanted to travel the world and write stories. And and so to do that, I trained as a teacher to be able to make money as I traveled. Fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, I loved teaching so much. All creativity went into teaching with my and with my students, and so I never really finished any writing that I did. So I have some stories, but I haven't finished them, and I'm getting old now. So maybe therefore, when I retire.
Okay, that's really great. So, looking back, what experiences shaped the educator you are today?
Oh, that's a very good question. One of the things was why everybody said, "Oh, Robert." Oh, they said to my parents, "Oh, your son Robert, he's a very clever boy. Oh, he's so bright." But I always got like B grades at school. And I worked and I understood things and I learned and I liked learning. I liked school, but I always got B grades. I was never very good at school. And I sort of wondered why. And when I became a teacher, one teacher uh, saw me teaching and she said, "You're a very strange teacher." And I sort of understood why. Many years later, I understood why. And it was because I didn't put my subject first, I put my students first. So I wasn't a teacher of science, I was a teacher of young people. And I always developed a relationship with them. And we always talked about many different things because half of them weren't interested in science. So what are we going to do with when you're in a room with 30 young people and 15 of them don't like science, but you're supposed to teach it? So you build a relationship with them. And and that sort of made me realize that it's much better to develop kids, help students to be there and learn if you have a good relationship with them. But the other thing is that I was teaching science, but to children who didn't know English. And so I had to teach English in the context of my subject. So my subject became a context in which they learned English. And then I realized it could be a context for other things. It could be a context for them to develop into the strongest learners. So even the kids who don't like science, they come to my class to become better learners. And so we rigged it like that. And then that developed into an approach of education. You go to school not to primarily, you go to school not to necessarily be brilliant at all of the different subjects. The first thing is to become the best learner you can be and the best learner for life. So we looked at the things that are the most important things to become a good learner, like to be able to work with other people, to be able to learn from your mistakes and accept mistakes and enjoy, in a way, having a mistake, to be able to try new things, to be able to understand yourself and reflect on yourself, to be able to ask the right questions, to find the right answers, and many other of these things like that. And so it was the development of those things that I set out to do. And there we are.
That's really amazing. So I'm a software developer and English teacher. I will teach English to
Mm,
students with AI. I also learn English with AI and also
yeah.
teach to students how to learn English with AI. So what
Wow.
advice would you give to me? Because you are really interesting man.
Okay. Well, I, what would I give to you? Obviously with the AI, you need to think, well, what is my use? If you're the English teacher using AI, once the kids know how to use AI to learn English, of what use are you? Yeah. So what is it that you're offering? What else? This is something when I interview teachers, I say, apart from your subject, what else do kids learn in your classroom? What else by your presence as a person? What are you teaching them? So, for example, if you see some of your students for the first time and you're very rude and you're cold, and you just say, be quiet, listen to me, do this, you're you're being a role model for them. You're showing that it's okay to behave like that. Whereas if you are friendly and happy and you take care of each one of them, then you're also showing that you can be a good person that takes care of them. And so, although you're teaching English, it wasn't your idea to teach them to be good people. By your example, you're teaching them kindness, you're teaching them compassion, you're teaching them empathy, because when you understand how they feel. So, this is the human element that you can provide along with your AI bot until AI can do that, of course. Yeah.
Okay, that's really great. So what challenges have taught you the biggest life lessons?
What challenges have taught me the biggest life lesson? What challenges have I had? I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I don't really think of my life like that. I don't have regrets, except when I hurt some people sometimes. But I don't really have any regrets. Lifelong lessons. Well, there are those times, for example, when I was wondering what it was that was wrong with education, why I felt there was something wrong with it, and I didn't understand what it was. And then somebody said something. There's one education program called the International Baccalaureate, and it has something in it called the learner profile. And in that learner profile, there are 10 things, a little bit like what I was talking about. These things, like, for example, caring and communication and reflection and these things. And it says you need to help the kids to develop these things. And one person sitting opposite the table explained it to another person. And it suddenly clicked in my head that that's what it was. That's what it's all about. Helping young people develop their potential. They can't develop their potential unless they've developed these characteristics. I call them learning powers. So you can't be the best learner you can be, and you can't fulfill your own potential unless you're very good at these things. So where are we in school teaching these things? Where are we coaching kids to understand these things? There are many, a good teacher will do that, but implicitly. So my goal is to make that explicit. So kids come to school knowing I'm going to school to develop myself, and my teachers are there to guide me and help me. And along the way, as a consequence, I'll get good marks at science. I'll get good marks at maths. I'll pass the subjects I don't like, but I'll excel at the ones I'm going to be good at. The problem with school is that teachers think I have to directly teach you my subject. And of course, you might not be interested in the subject, and you might not be a good learner, and you might not know yourself well enough to be a good learner. And so you fail. And the teacher will say, well, you're lazy, or you're not a good learner, or you're not a good student, or you are not a language person, or not a maths person, or some stupid excuse they'll use. Yeah, that's the system we have at the moment in most schools.
Okay. So my next question from you is that how you describe yourself in 3 words? That's a really interesting question.
Old, tired, and carrying on.
Okay. That's really great. I really appreciate your answer. So what personal values guide your leadership?
Or personal values that all young people can fulfill their current potential, not their potential in years to come. They can do that yet later, but they can fulfill their current potential. All young people have these learning powers, and all young people need to be liberated from the schools that we've developed. Okay. And teachers also. It's like in most schools, teachers and students are trapped in some system that doesn't do them good, isn't good enough for them,
That's
isn't good
really
enough for the world.
great.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question from you is that how do you define success in education in today's
Hmm.
world?
You'll see it one day when we select or we allow good people to lead us at every level, and the people who are being led are good at following and good at making sure their leaders make wise decisions that are good for all people, not just their own people, not just for them. And you can see in our world these days that we don't have such leaders, or they're very rare. There are in some places good leaders, but mostly our leaders are awful. Um, so you'll see it then. But at a level, when you walk into a school, kids are happy, kids are engaged in any school, in small schools, in big schools, in rich schools, in poor schools. Kids want to go to school because they know why they're going there. They're going to develop themselves, and and the teachers are helping them to do it. Some will help them a lot, some will help them a little bit, and they'll be more successful, and they'll be happy because they know who they are, and they know they've got to where they are because of themselves.
Okay, that's a truly interesting answer. So what is your vision for the future of education?
What's the vision for education? That that we liberate learners, we liberate young people to be able to develop themselves, because that's the only way we're going to be in control of AI and being in control of technology rather than it being in control of us. If we have developed ourselves, look at how technology is developed. It's developed very quickly and but look at how we've developed. We're still I don't know, sometimes we think that the people in the past were more clever than we are. We don't develop ourselves. We gain something, we lose something, we learn something, but we forget things. Oh no, because we don't focus on developing our potential, we focus on developing technology's potential. And gradually, it's beginning to lead us rather than we're leading it.
Okay, that's really great answer. So my next question from you is that how has education changed over the years and what qualities make an outstanding teacher?
The qualities that make an outstanding teacher are very similar qualities that make an outstanding parent. And as you know, parents can be very different, teachers can be very different. But to build a relationship with your young people so that they feel safe and confident with you, that young people feel free to come and ask you a question about something that's not related to anything, not related to your subject or the what you're teaching at the time, but they feel comfortable with you to do that. You can be a strict teacher, you can be a friendly teacher, you can be a young lady, you can be an old man, but in every case, young people need to feel confident that you are there for them, like a mother or a father, a good mother or a good father are there for their children. And then the next thing is to not give the answers, get the kids to find out for themselves. So when you ask me uh, a question, I ask you a question, how you can find it. I ask you when you say, well, how can I tie my shoes? Okay. I don't know. Let's find out together. Let's see what these funny shoes with laces, how do they do it? When you tie a tie, well, I don't know. Are there different ways to tie a tie? Let's look at it together. So a teacher is someone who models learning and but doesn't do it for the children. The children have to do it themselves. And being patient as well. That, of course, you have to be very, very patient. Sometimes, not always.
That's really great. So what is the biggest challenge facing schools today?
The biggest challenge is that they are, it's a little bit like imagine everybody's riding a horse and a cart. Okay. So we don't have cars and we've all got horses and carts. And some people have got very splendid, wonderful gold painted carriages with suspension, and they've got 8 horses and the best horses, and you pay lots of money to go and ride in that carriage, and that's like the best school or the most prestigious school. And then you've got little ones, you've got all different sorts, yeah, and they keep polishing and polishing and making them better and better and better, and then you come along with a van, a truck, and of course the truck, as long as it works, can carry more, can go on for longer, can do so many more things than the horse and cart. Well, all of those schools that are taking the approach that we have to teach children subjects of that, and their ability to pass those subjects is how good a school we are, forgetting the half of the class who don't pass, forget them. It's getting schools to approach things differently and saying all of my students can get the most out of, and it's a paradigm shift. Yeah, so we need to shift the paradigm of why we go to school and what we get out of school. So it's a little bit like going from a horse and cart to a motorized vehicle. Yeah.
That's really uh, great. So how can school encourage creativity and critical thinking?
Well, they can trust their students for a start. trust them with issues, trust them with problems. So, for example, in my school, we had head boy, head girl, deputy head boy, deputy head girl. These were voted in, and they didn't do anything. There were some problems that they had to solve, like how to do the graduation, and it didn't go very well, and it was hopeless. And all the kids are sitting there going, "Who's going to lead us? Who's going to help us? So I opened it up and I said, right, I want to get proposals from anybody, and we're going to form a committee. I had, I think, 110 people in the committee to start with. They all turned up and said, we have proposals. We want to make a change in our school. We can do it ourselves. So just by saying, everyone, you can make a change in the school. You can propose a project. You can bring your ideas to the table and start leading things. So first of all, you've got to make the space for young people to do things. Give them the structures to start, and then later on get them to review the structures themselves. So the school begins to become their school, and therefore they will make lots of mistakes, of course, but the school should be a safe place to make mistakes, and that's how we learn. So yeah, giving space and encouragement and structures to start off with, and letting them go, liberating them.
Okay. So, what role should technology play in education?
It should be there when we need it. So, for example, again, in my school, every young person from year 3 upwards has a Chromebook, and uh, and gradually the children are using it for everything because the teacher is putting everything on the Chromebook. So take out your Chromebooks and read this. Take out your Chromebook and do this maths. Take out your Chromebook and watch this film. And it's terrible. It's such a waste. What a waste of all that technology for nothing. So we've devised a way where the students bring their Chromebooks, put them on a shelf, and sit there with no Chromebook. They have a notepad and a piece of paper and a pen, and they discuss the problems, and they talk about things, and they think about things, and they do the maths in their head as they can, and then they come up and they say, well, all right, there's a question we can't really understand. I wonder what this is. I know what, let's go and get the Chromebook and we look it up. Or we ask our robot, we ask our AI bot, yeah? Or we we make our presentation using AI as a tool. So when you need the tool, you use it. When you don't need that tool, you don't use it. Yeah.
That's really great. So, I have a question that how many siblings did you have?
How many children have I had? What you mean, like in my
No,
family?
siblings. Siblings. Your brother, sister.
Siblings.
How many?
Oh, brothers and sisters. Right. This is very sad. I'm an only child, and I have no children. So there you go. 0 and 0 to both of those questions.
Do you have not brother, sister?
No.
Oh, okay. So, my next question, how can schools create happier and more confident students?
Well, if you do what I've just been talking about, you find that students become happier because they're learning that when they come to school, there's something meaningful to come to school for. And when you're doing something meaningful, then you're happier. So instead of the students I have seen in some schools that come to school and just sit there and wait for the teacher to finish, and they're just waiting because the teacher is explaining and explaining and explaining, and then they go home and they have a private tutor and they're explaining and explaining and explaining, and the kid's just going over the kid's head, and what a waste of their life. They'd rather be playing football. But if you can engage kids in their own learning and their own development, like all those things I said, the collaboration and reflection and caring and all those things, I sat down with one boy whose interest is football, and we went through all of those things. And I said, do you need these things to be a good footballer or a good football team manager or a good trainer? And we worked out that the 14 learning powers that we're looking at, all of them were needed and really good. If you've developed those, you become a better footballer, a better manager, a better captain. And suddenly he switched on and he's saying, wow, so I'm learning this from school. It doesn't matter about the science so much and the English and that. I'm learning to work with other people. I'm learning to communicate well. I'm learning to carry on when things get difficult. Yeah, all the things you need to be a good footballer. And suddenly he's suddenly changed, and suddenly he started passing classes as well, because as he got better, he could begin to understand the subject that he was doing, and so he is happier. So you need to be successful. In fact, all of those things that I've been mentioning, those learning powers, they all came from the question, what do young people need to develop within themselves to maximize their ability to be happy and successful in life? And parents from many different countries. You're from Pakistan, yes?
Yes, I am from Pakistan.
Yeah. So some teachers in Karachi, they gave input into this as well. Teachers from Japan, from Germany, from Lebanon, from Iran, they all put their ideas into, and they all came out the same, to be pretty much these 14 learning powers that we are promoting. So, so if you develop those things, you're going to be have more chance to be successful and more chance to be sort of happy in your life, because the end point is being able to make wise decisions in your life. Like, you can't avoid some difficult decisions, but you can make the best decision for you and your family, or you and your people. And so to be wise, it's a very old thing, but it's a very important thing for our generation today, our world today, to be wise. So, yeah.
Okay. So, do you have any last interview last? Do you have any advice for our viewers?
uh, remember that stress, there's good stress and bad stress, and to recognize between the two things. And the bad stress, when you're being stressed by something, try to avoid this as much as you can. And use stress as a good thing to get you to do better things than you are now. And to go to school saying, what am I going to take from this school? What am I going to create? What opportunities am I creating for myself in this school? Not there and wait for things to happen to you.
Okay, that's really very interesting advice. I really like your advice. So, this was our today's interview guest. I hope you like it. I meet with new guests next day, next topic. Thank you. So, sir, thank you very much.
Wonderful.
You give me your precious